You ever have one of those days where you know you look good, but you can't say it publicly because people are gonna be like, oh my god, you're so conceited. I know I look good today. Hi, hello everyone, welcome in. My name is Jer, and listen, I just work here sometimes. I don't make the rules. I most recently finished Drag Race Brasil Season 1 for my weekly podcast. You can check that out under That Sounds Gay, where you find your podcasts are here on YouTube. And I gotta be honest, I struggled with it. I struggled a lot. I enjoyed the cast. I thought they were all super fierce. I liked the runways they presented. I liked Greg as a concept. There were a lot of horrible judging decisions, I think, that happened. And I did not understand half of why people won. If you're familiar with this channel, you are already aware that I walk away from a lot of episodes with a lot of opinions, and I generally am reasonable with the choices, but I often find myself disagreeing. I have never watched a season where from top to bottom I disagreed with just about every choice for win, as well as how the season panned out. And today I'm going to be rejudging all of Drag Race Brasil Season 1. I don't want to waste too much time, so we're going to get right on into this, but I just wanted to be clear, a couple of the queens that I'm eliminating early, I don't know what they're capable of. So episode 1 and 2 are split premieres, two sides of the exact same coin. No one goes home in the first episode, but they do go home in the second episode in a judging decision that I think was wackadoo. I think what would have been a better decision would have been if they had a top from both episodes and a bottom from both episodes and made the top two duke it out in a lip sync for the win and the bottom two duke it out for a lip sync for your life if that was the direction they wanted to go. I, in this universe, am not going to eliminate anybody in week 1 or 2 since they did have one locked and loaded in the barrel at the end of the season. What I am instead doing is doing a top 2 performance from week 1 and a top 2 performance from week 2. I also gotta say, I did not like the week 1 song. I thought it was weak in comparison to week 2. The overall theme of being good girls, I just don't think translated well into the song. It was too sweet while also having no melody, and it was bad. Week 2, however, had the banger number, and I feel like recency bias didn't allow the judges to look fairly at the group win. I also just don't think it should have been a group win, period, because that's not how it was pitched to them. They would have participated in the challenge differently had they known they were going to be judged as an entire group rather than as individuals. So overall, I think week 1 and 2 were fairly unfair. Week 1, taking the runway into consideration as well as the performances, my top 2 are Miranda and Naza. They'll lip sync, and I imagine that Naza would probably win this one. I think she was a little more locked in with the lip syncs, and I think this would be a good early storyline to set up that her and Miranda do not click because Naza is not as focused as Miranda is. Miranda says later on in the competition that she was dying every single day to be at Drag Race, and Naza was just like, yeah, I'm here, I'm having fun, let's keep going. It was very Thorgy and Bob energy. One contestant is there having a great time, not taking it all too seriously, and the other one resents them for it. I also think the edit could have been much stronger in sharing some of these stories so that the season didn't feel like such a drag. There was so much time packed into each episode, but we learned as an audience almost nothing about these contestants. Meanwhile, I'm currently watching Drag Race Germany and I'm only on episode 1, and I can name off almost everybody in the cast and things about them because the edit has been memorable about them. Episode 2 is called Frenemies, the exact same style where they perform in a girl group, they write their own lyrics. Their song was much better. Considering the challenge and the runway, my top 2 are Ruby Ocean and Shannon Scarlett. I'm still to this day confused why Organza won that because there's literally a shot of her almost tripping in the performance and she looked confused through almost all of it. Her runway was cute, but I think that Shannon and Ruby both outdid her on the runway. They lip sync and my preference is Shannon's style, so Shannon gets the win. Episode 3 is called Tupini Queens, where they are going to be acting in front of a green screen. I hate green screen acting challenges. I think it is such a colossal waste of time to stick them in front of a green screen to record what is going to be something that will haunt them for years of their career. Not to mention the fact that this entire challenge had a random dead guy with a boner the whole time. Poor Shannon worked the best that she could in that challenge, but for the most part, this was kind of booger. I think there were too many parts, there were too many groupings, there was a lot of chaos. I would cut this challenge entirely, but I'm only rejudging, not rebuilding. And then the runway category is top models, where they had to reference a real living woman and do that look. I think that based on the challenge, where I think Organza and Naza and Miranda were the funniest, and then factoring in runway, where I think that they were all very strong. Even if Naza did a couple changes, I like what she did by translating the boots into stockings. I like what Organza did with her look, even though it is a little bit of a departure from the original. And I overall like Miranda's humor in changing up the silhouette and then having that blacked out tooth. It was very hard Drag Race shenanigans that I think Rue would like. I would give the win to Miranda. I thought her character was funnier. I thought she was more interesting in the acting challenge. And in the bottom two, simply because I don't know how she would perform, I'm gonna put Diva there. And also Tristan, who was originally there, who I agree with. Her look was kind of poor, and her performance was poor. In the lip sync, she doesn't know the words, to the point that Greg even points and is like, do you know these? So unfortunately, Tristan is still out this week, and Diva progresses one more week, even though I don't know if she would slay this or if she would do bad. I'm just kind of guessing that based on Diva's general presence that she wouldn't kill it. Episode 4 is called Atlantic Mermaids, where the queens have to take a bunch of plastic and vinyl looking materials and create their version of a mermaid. Originally, there were some strange choices that happened on the runway. I think that Naza got a win purely because she was agitating a couple of the other queens, and I think they wanted to activate them and see what would happen if they gave her a random dual win, even though her look is cute. I just don't think it's top 2, and I love me some Naza. This season, there's definitely a backlog queue that I think gets overpolluted because those first 2 weeks, they gave wins to people that they shouldn't have. And so then it's like, okay, well, we have to give Naza a win, even though she didn't slay in this challenge. We should have given her one last week. We need to give Miranda a win now. Oh my God, we need to give Helena a win. And everything kind of just gets out of whack. And I think that's what happened here with Naza's double win. In my opinion, the top 3 were Ruby for this incredible avant-garde silhouette. I live for the construction of it, even though it's not really giving me mermaid. Helena Maldita definitely won this week. I love the construction of that, and I like that she incorporated the Brazilian flag colors. She just looks like she came directly out of the ocean. And honestly, I think that Organza knocked it out of the park. I love the shape of her look. I like the silhouette. I like the color choices. She's really got a great eye for detail. So she would be up at top 3. But the winner is Helena. Bottom 2 are Diva, because I don't know how she would do here, and I feel like I just have to scoot her out since she wasn't this far in the competition. We did not get to see a lot of what she could do. And then Dallas for looking crazy. There was a whole debacle about her underwear and how she wore those panties the week before, but then that didn't hinder her. And in my opinion, if half of your look is underwear and those were brought from home, that's not a design. It also doesn't look like a mermaid in any way. She's got boots. Where's the mermaid tail? Where is any of the aquatic detail besides this cool face prosthetic that she did that doesn't even totally fit in her point of view? Her whole drag thesis is that she is this sort of cyborg animatronic from a positive future, not one that ends in destruction and gloom and apocalyptic nature. This doesn't even fit in with that aesthetic. So I would put her there. I know that they originally put Aquarella, and I don't like her big purple penis look, but I don't hate it more than I hate Dallas's. And the queen that would be out would be Diva. And there'd also be no dual win if that wasn't clear. Episode 5 is called Glamazonia, where the queens are tasked with creating inspirational video messages with the theme, "You Are Not Alone." And they're given buzzwords to create their video. This was such an abnormal challenge for Drag Race, because typically Drag Race US and any Rue hosted season typically packages this idea that they want you to give heart and soul vulnerability, when in fact they just want you to be silly and dumb and make the judges laugh. They don't care if you reveal your soft squishy inside or the human being that you actually are, where this challenge did want that. The queens that were a bit more humorous were not given all the praise, and the ones who really went for it were the ones who were in the top. Taking the videos and the runway into consideration, my top 3 are Ruby for that incredible look that made Greg cry. It made me emotional. I loved the idea of mixing what is so well known about Brazil and the Amazon, but not trying to pretend that everything is just sunshine and rainbows and happiness. The rainforest is being destroyed for commercialism, and not shying away from that darkness, I think, is special and important on a huge platform like Drag Race where things should be a little political. And then Shannon for her performance, which was absolutely incredible, and I think she nailed the assignment of you are not alone. And I think that Miranda was very fun too. She was giving me like Tilda Swinton as the Snow Queen from Narnia, but if she was in Dynasty, and the whole look and performance was wild, but I was super into it. She said something in her intro like, our enemies are still among us, and I lived. The winner of the challenge is Shannon Scarlett. I think that she killed it and she wasn't afraid to go there. And then on the runway, her look is super cool. She is the runway girly this season for me. And the bottom two are Aquarella. I did not like that random scream she did in the middle of her video. She was like, and then the other bottom two would be Dallas, who I think also was a little bizarre in the challenge, and I think had probably the worst runway of all of them. I don't know, I did not like this bird. And the queen that would be out for me is Dallas, because I like the way that Aquarella lip syncs, and for someone who has a very expensive glasses prescription, that diva really throws herself on the ground as if those glasses are not gonna fly off her head. I kinda live for the danger. Episode 6 is the Snatch game, which was actually not very cringe at all. This was a pretty decent Snatch game. I think that Miranda killed it. I loved her lesbian chef. I loved her line when she said, Bruna, I don't get to taste you tonight because I only have a knife and a fork and you deserve a spoon. And then later she finds a spoon and says, Bruna, look what I found, and like throats the spoon. It was very funny. She was fun to watch. She had great presence and energy. She was the hands down winner for me of the Snatch game. But other notable tops were Helena Maldita, who I think was very funny in her approach. I liked her voice that she did. And then I also really liked Bettina's performance too. Her smoker voice was very funny to me. Naza struggled. I think that Organza struggled a bit. She didn't go anywhere with her performance. I think that Ruby struggled, and I don't know, they liked Dallas, but I didn't. Maybe it's because I don't know this character. And I don't think that Aquarella would do that good here. But it must be noted that Melusine Sparkle is still here. I did not forget about her. I just didn't think that she would slay or flop in the last couple challenges. I don't think she would do well here based on how she did in that acting challenge. I don't think that she would be able to stay present like Snatch Game needs you to be. My winner of the week is Miranda Lebrau. I loved her performance, and then her headpiece is brilliant. I love this idea of doing this Sarah shopping mart where you could find everything extravaganza. It reminds me of what drag is, which is being able to source materials from anywhere and make something high fashion. And the bottom two would be Ruby and Melusine, where I do believe that Melusine would be out here to Ruby. Naza would be in the bottom, hands down. But my bottom two is Ruby because her hat fell off. Episode 7 is called Brazil Loves Puppets, which is strange because it's a black and white runway theme. The queens are tasked with showcasing a white look they already brought from home and then creating a complementary black look that exists in the same collection. A collection. To me, a collection has the either same vibe or the same aesthetic or the same overall theme as the thing you already had. And I think a lot of these queens missed out on the piece of collection. They created impressive looks. The winner did create an impressive piece, but I don't think that she had a collection. I don't understand this beach vibe party and a funeral. For me, the best collection was Bettina. Even if it was a Madonna tribute, it was still a collection all the same. Nobody said it had to be their personal brand. She did a collection. I like well enough what Organza did. I think it does look like a collection. I just don't know if I like the pieces individually designed. I have a big problem that it's just pants and a bralette for her sewn black look. But it does read collection. I just don't like the construction. The winner for me is Naza. She did the assignment, which was to create a collection. I like that her first look is this soft plush teddy bear, and then her black look is so cool. It looks like something you would see on Project Runway. I love that the lapels are the eyebrows here. It's such a cool detail. I love the way that she created this look. It's very fun, it's impressive. Those pants have a great fit. And overall, I would not know that she made this there. I would think she brought this from home. So for me, Naza wins the challenge. She completed the idea of a design, creating something that was styled well, and also did a collection. Bottom three based on track record would be Aquarella because she didn't sew very well in the Atlantic Mermaids challenge. And Shannon can't keep getting away with this. This look is atrocious. The first one I think is cute enough, but I am getting those soda can 6-packs or 12-packs together as the necklace. And then that sewn look, she said something like, I didn't just stone this corset, I also made an A-line skirt. Okay. Ooh. Like, yeah, it's a very wee pull RuPaul. And I appreciate that it seems in theory like it could be a part of the collection, but it's not styled well, it's not designed well, and it looks bad. And it makes me feel bad. She's in the bottom and does send home Aquarella. Episode 8 is Brazilian Parties Extravaganza, where the queens are tasked with a ball, a Brazilian ball. I will be honest, I'm not as familiar with these references because I'm not Brazilian, and I did my best to try to understand the cultural relevance to each one of these looks, but the show didn't really bring me into why these matter. Drag Race Brasil is not made for me as an American, it is made for Brazilians. But there are uncultured people that live everywhere in the world. So Drag Race typically highlights what each one of these categories are and why they're important for the people that are homebodies, for the people that don't really connect with their culture, for people that don't know the ins and outs of these things, so that even if they are not plugged in, they can be just as included in the conversation. And it felt like the edit kind of left out the importance of each one of these looks. So because I don't know if these are accurate to what they're supposed to be or not, I can only judge based on how they look to me. And for me, my personal tops, I believe, would be Ruby, even though she wasn't here originally. She's got great fashion sense, and I think she would deliver something very interesting and cool. I loved Shannon's collection. I love these colors that she chose. That second look is my favorite of the second category. I love the intensity of that red and the blue with those shapes. The horns are very cool. And then her final look, I'm wild about that print. And then also I really loved Organza's collection. Specifically, her first look is one of my favorites of that first category. I love how 80s, 90s sitcom intro that is. I love that tinsel hair. That second look is very cool too. I'm very about that. The third look, I'm maybe the least interested in, but I still like it. I would ultimately give the win to Shannon. And then my bottoms would be Bettina and Naza. I don't like Bettina's first look. It's giving me Nina West. I don't really care too much for the second look. I think that diaper right in the middle is very distracting. And then the third look, I think the print is fun. It's just a lot. And then Naza did not impress me in any way. I didn't understand why Helena was in the bottom. They really got on her, but I like all three of her looks. They're all amazing. Ultimately, and sadly, Bettina would be out here because I do prefer Naza's style of lip syncing. Episode 9 is called Drag Shade Brasil, where the queens are tasked with a comedy set. They're meant to be shady, but it seemed like the queen who did that was shamed the hardest and was told that she didn't push it enough. Miranda came in and knocked out this comedy challenge. Her opening line of, I feel like a disaster relief worker, coming in after something horrible happened and trying to save something. I liked that she included this guest judge, Junior, I believe his name was, and roped him into this world of this season and basically explained to him why each one of the queens were boogers, why the competition was moving the way that it was. She helped loop him in where a lot of the other queens were sort of like, hey, I don't know who you are. Eat And he tried his best to laugh at everything, even if he didn't know what the references were. And I think he was such a good sport. And Miranda actually made him feel active in that room and not just like he was some dude that was intruding on their space. And the runway category was called Glitter Glam. Glitter here, glitter there, put glitter everywhere. And for me, Miranda's the only one who's giving glitter. Everybody else is giving mirror ball. They're giving reflective. These are not glitter. Even Organza is giving me chains. That's not glitter. So Miranda wins this week. She's the sole winner, the only top placer. I don't believe that Naza would be very funny, but I do think she would be shady. And I think her runway look would be good. The bottom two are Shannon and Organza still because they flopped. And I don't really think that either one of their looks meet the glitter category. The real tea, real shade, Organza flopped this lip sync, was awful, but she was the front runner and probably the pick to win the whole thing, so they couldn't eliminate her here to Shannon's hands, even though she deserved to go home here. And so in my rejudging, Organza does go home. We used our double save early in the season to make sure that nobody went home in the premiere, and now is where it really counts. Episode 10 is called Carnival Makeovers, where the queens are tasked with, you guessed it, making over a partner. I thought a lot of the guests were very cute. I liked the way that they went full of balls to the walls with these makeovers. I liked the way that the queens approached them, but there were a couple of misses. I do believe that Naza had the strongest point of view with what her drag was supposed to look like. And considering that she's here, I think that she would do well. I know that Ruby has a great aesthetic and she would do well here. And I freaking loved Helena's look. This blue and pink is so beautiful. I don't understand why her makeover is called Africa Veneno, but that doesn't matter to me. I still like it. I think that the scale of these is very fun and they had to make these looks there. So her making this pink look is kind of impressive that it matches and looks like a part of the same collection as that blue look. So Helena wins the night for me. And the bottom two would be Shannon and Miranda, where I think ultimately Miranda does go home. I didn't really care too much about her lip sync. It was very emotional, but when she started writing sigils on her face in that purple lipstick, I think she lost it for me a bit. And I think it creates a more compelling story for her going forward into Global All-Stars, considering that she got snubbed right before the finale. And that means our top four going into the finale are Ruby, Naza, Helena, and Shannon. The last challenge is a music video, but it's just to a song, like a regular old song that Greg had. Not anything that they had to write their own lyrics to, which was kind of a bummer. If I was restructuring the season, I would make them write their own lyrics, but we're not doing that today, but that's what I would do if I could, but I'm not. Based on performance skills in general, I would say that the top two, because I would whittle it down to a top two, would be Naza and Shannon. Yes, I've been favoring them all season, but there were plenty of girls that got favored this season in the original run. And I would not keep it a top four because that last song was a kind of high energy, up-tempo song. It wasn't the typical ballad. If it was like El Me Mintió, like in Drag Race Mexico, season 1, where it was so slow that each one of those girls could kind of just park and bark and emote, that's one thing. But when you've got a lip sync that's a bit of a dancey number, you can't have 4 girls on that stage. It's just chaos. So I would remove Ruby, who I don't think would perform excellently in that final challenge. And I would remove Helena because I think she had lost steam by this point in the competition. Both of them have good momentum and good story reason for winning the season. Naza is someone who is very underlooked by all the queens up until the time that she went. A lot of them didn't like her. So she's got a good underdog trajectory, but so does Shannon. Shannon's someone who continued to do well week after week, had a couple stumbles here and there, but overall was doing her best and was the objective runway girly this season. And I think she had some great performance moments. I think based on Shannon's resilience all competition, I would give her the win, and I stick with that because I think that she deserved it. This season I did overall find kind of bizarre, but you can listen to fuller thoughts on my Drag Race podcast if you're interested. We do cover every season in chronological order, so keep an eye out for even more Drag Race coming in the future. If you check out my Patreon and subscribe there to the drag tier, you can listen to my podcast the day that it's ready before it gets loaded up into the queue, which is about 2 or 3 weeks out on YouTube. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all on the flip.